Have a nice day, all of you. I'm Nilupa Subasinghe. You are welcome to my presentation, Pre-Excitation Syndrome Part 2. In Part 1, I already discussed different accessory pathways, WPW syndrome and its mechanisms, and type of WPW syndrome with relevant ECG patterns. This is Part 2 in our series on pre-excitation syndromes. Objectives of this presentation. At the end of the presentation, you should be able to describe free entry circuit in WPW syndrome, identify type of cardiac arrhythmias with WPW syndrome, and discuss other pre-excitation syndromes with relevant ECG changes. Now I would like to look at the re-entry circuit associated with WPW syndrome. You can see this picture. A is described the impulse passed through the normal conduction pathway and present the normal ECG waveform. B diagram describes the impulse travels through the accessory pathway and bypass the AV node. Results of this mechanism present the white QRS complex with delta wave. Then look at the C part of this diagram. Normal conduction pathway can conduct impulse anterogradely towards the ventricles and retrogradely away from the ventricles. This mechanism known as orthodromic conduction. Orthodromic conduction in WPW syndrome occurring down the AV node and retrogradely up accessory pathway. As we mentioned in Part 1, ECG features of WPW syndrome. Strute upstroke of QRS complex with delta wave, white QRS complex more than 120 milliseconds, short PR interval less than 120 milliseconds, and secondary STT changes. Then we consider the re-entry mechanism and tachyarrhythmia associated with WPW syndrome. Re-entry circuit divided into orthodromic and antidromic conduction based on direction of re-entry conduction and ECG morphology. Here look at this diagram. You can see here orthodromic re-entry tachycardia in WPW syndrome. Conduction occurs down the AV node and retrogradely up through the accessory pathway. Conduction occurs down the AV node and retrogradely up through the accessory pathway, preceding the narrow complex tachycardia. With antidromic re-entry tachycardia, anterograde conduction proceeds down the accessory pathway and retrograde conduction proceeds up the AV node, then resulting regular white complex tachycardia. Now you can see this diagram, mechanism for orthodromic tachycardia left side and mechanism for antidromic tachycardia right side. There are some important points here to consider. With orthodromic re-entry tachycardia, anterograde conduction proceeds normal down the atrioventricular conduction system and retrograde conduction proceeds up the bypass tract, producing narrow complex tachycardia. The QRS morphology is normal, that is without delta wave. Because of that, ventricular activation occurs through the normal conduction pathway. The rate usually between 140 to 250 beats per minute. Inverted P waves may be visible because atrial depolarization occurs later than the ventricular depolarization. Antidromic tachycardia occurs when the accessory pathway conducts anterogradely and impulse return to the atria via the AV node. The resultant QRS complex is broad because of the abnormal ventricular activation. Rapid, irregular, broad complex tachycardia. Overall rate 200 beats per minute. Atrioventricular re-entry tachycardia. An accessory pathway can conduct impulse either anterograde towards the ventricle, retrograde away from the ventricle, or both directions. The majority of pathways allow conduction in both directions, with retrograde only conduction occurring in 15% of cases and anterograde only conduction rarely seen. Trachyarrhythmia can be facilitated by formation of a re-entry circuit involving the accessory pathway termed atrioventricular re-entry tachycardia, AVRT. Let's consider the ECG features of orthodromic conduction. Heart rate usually 200 to 300 beats per minute. P waves may be buried in QRS complexes or retrograde. QRS complexes usually more than 120 milliseconds. T wave inversion is common and ST segment depression. Here you can see the ECG stripped on orthodromic re-entry tachycardia. Heart rate 188 beats per minute. P waves not visible, ST segment depression, and delta wave not displayed on the surface ECG. WPW syndrome with antidromic tachycardia. This consists of anterograde conduction of the sinus impulse through the accessory pathway and retrograde conduction through the AV nodal pathway. Antidromic reciprocating tachycardia. Much less common than orthodromic atrioventricular re-entry tachycardia, occurring in 5% of patients with WPW syndrome. Rate is usually 200 to 300 beats per minute. Wide QRS complexes due to abnormal ventricular depolarization via accessory pathway. Here is the ECG features of antidromic conduction. Rapid, irregular, broad complex tachycardia. Overall rate is more than 200 beats per minute. P waves difficult to identify. Display delta wave on the surface ECG. Then we discuss the other important areas of WPW syndrome with atrial fibrillation. If the patient with WPW experience episode of atrial fibrillation, the ECG shows a rapid polymorphic wide complex tachycardia. This combination of atrial fibrillation and WPW is considered dangerous because WPW carries a small risk of sudden death due to rapidly conducted atrial fibrillation causing ventricular fibrillation. The atrial rate in atrial fibrillation is typically between 300 to 600 beats per minute. When those impulses are allowed to be transmitted to the ventricles very rapidly across an accessory pathway, the result can be ventricular fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation can occur in up to 20% of patients with WPW. Atrial flutter can occur in up to 7% of patients with WPW. The accessory pathways allow for rapid conduction directly to the ventricles bypassing the AV node. Rapid ventricular rates may result in degeneration to ventricular tachycardia or ventricular fibrillation. Now we discuss the ECG features of atrial fibrillation in WPW syndrome. Heart rate is more than 200 beats per minute. Rhythm is irregular. P-wave difficult to identify because of the very rapid heart rate. QRS complex. White QRS complexes due to abnormal ventricular depolarization via accessory pathway. And QRS complexes change in shape and morphology. Axis remains stable unlike polymorphic ventricular tachycardia. Atrial flutter results in the same features as atrial fibrillation in WPW syndrome, except the rhythm is regular and may be mistaken for ventricular tachycardia. Here you can see the ECG strip on atrial fibrillation in a patient with WPW syndrome. Rapid, irregular and broad complex tachycardia. Heart rate is more than 200 beats per minute. Dominant S wave in V1. This ECG strip could easily be mistaken for atrial fibrillation with left bundle branch block pattern. Let's discuss the different accessory pathways. Here you can see the AV conduction through bundle of Kent. Next, you can see here atriofascicular tract. Atrium to bundle of His and atrium to right bundle branch. Then you can see here fascicular ventricular tracts. And nodoventricular tract. In this lecture session, I hope to discuss atriofascicular tract, Maheim fibers and James bundle. Lorne-Gannon-Levin syndrome, LGL syndrome. LGL syndrome due to an abnormal electrical connection between the atria and the ventricles. LGL syndrome when an accessory pathway is congenitally present that connects the atria to the ventricles. It is similar to the WPW syndrome. Both states can have a short PR interval. However, LGL syndrome will not have a delta wave or wide QRS complexes as seen in WPW syndrome. LGL syndrome that connects the atria directly to the bundle of His bypassing the slowly conducting atrioventricular node. Bypass close to the AV node connecting the left atrium and the His bundle. Accessory pathway composed of James fibers. ECG features of the LGL syndrome. Very short PR interval less than 120 milliseconds. Normal QRS morphology. Sinus rhythm with ventricular extrasystole. In LGL syndrome, the electrical activation does not travel through the AV node like in a normal person. The action potential can travel down the accessory pathway and activate the ventricle rapidly, result in a short PR interval in ECG. Here is the ECG script on LGL syndrome. Normal P wave, short PR interval, narrow QRS complex. LGL can be distinguished from WPW syndrome because the delta waves seen in WPW syndrome are not seen in LGL syndrome. The QRS complex will also be narrowed in LGL syndrome. Mahin type pre-excitation. The term Mahin fibers refers to atriofascicular bypass tract that connect the right atrium to the distal right bundle. Right side accessory pathways connecting the either AV node to ventricles, fascicles to ventricles, or atria to fascicles. ECG features of Mahin type pre-excitation syndrome. Sinus rhythm ECG may be normal, may result in variation in ventricular morphology. Tree-end tachycardia typically has left bundle branch block morphology. Here is the brief summary of the three types of accessory pathways. Type 1, Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. Type 2, Lorn-Gannon-Levin syndrome or LGL syndrome. Type 3, Mahin type. Conduction pathways, WPW syndrome, bundle of Kent, atria to ventricles. LGL syndrome, bundle of James, atria to bundle of His. Mahin type, Mahin fibers, right atrium to the distal right bundle branch. ECG features in WPW, short PR interval, long QRS interval, and present delta wave. LGL syndrome, short PR interval, normal QRS complex, and not display the delta wave. Mahin type, short PR interval, long QRS interval, and no delta V. Summary of this presentation. In this presentation, we have already discussed re-entry circuit in WPW syndrome, identify type of cardiac arrhythmias with WPW syndrome, and discuss other pre-excitation syndromes with relevant ECG changes. Thank you for your kind attention.